Welcome to The Art of Likeability, ranked one of the top podcasts in the world. In this podcast, you'll discover how to leverage likability to build stronger relationships, lead more efficiently, close more sales, and keep customers happy while increasing success in your professional and personal life. Let's jump in with your host, Arel Moody.
All right, what's going on, Likeability family? Arel Moody here, your host of The Art of Likeability, where we show you the skills you need to build better relationships, increase the happiness in your life. If you don't want better relationships, if you don't want happiness, turn this podcast off, baby, because you listened to the wrong podcast. And listen, I'm so excited. We got so many cool things going on. As you may already have heard, I have my second son was born. He's a month old today, and loving my lack of sleep and raising a human. So I got a lot of great things going on. We got a lot of cool projects going on. I want to tell you up front before we jump into today's show. For those of you who haven't gone to our link yet, go to dreamjob.artoflikeability.com. If you have an interview coming up and you want to absolutely nail it and use super secret strategies of likability, this is the manual to do it. So make sure you go ahead and grab that for yourself or a friend. We just started something really cool, and I'll tell you about it right now. We have a new Facebook group. So if you are on Facebook, which about 1 billion of humans in the world actually are, we have a really cool Facebook group just for our listeners. You can ask questions to me directly. You can connect with other listeners. You can give me show ideas. If you're dealing with any subjects and you want me to help you with it, happy to do so. We have some really, really sharp people, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, authors, amazing people who are in this group from all over the world. So if you haven't done so yet, just go search Art of Likeability in Facebook, check it out, and you'll be able to connect with some really, really cool, like-minded people. And I'm excited today because we have a very like-minded individual on the interview with us today. So we have a special interview with Jeffrey Slater, who's coming to us all the way from the beautiful country of Australia. And I got to tell you, this dude has an impressive background. All right. He has worked with over 3 million people in 12 countries, and he consults for Fortune 500 companies. This guy has shared the stage with Richard Branson from Virgin, Tim Ferriss from the 4 Hour Workweek, Tony Robbins, John Gray, Tim Ferriss, Les Brown. I mean, literally anyone that you think is doing big things in the business world, this guy has probably been connected with him. He does amazing work in the internet marketing space, in the consulting space. Awesome dude. So I'm excited to have him on the call. Someone who has built businesses, lost money, built it back up, and reestablished himself as a multimillionaire. And he is going to show you some of his strategies on how he actually has been able to do that by tapping into the future of sales. And I think this is a very, very important topic for us to cover, because I'm a huge proponent that no matter what you do, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an entrepreneur, a manager, every single human being is in sales. This is something that my mentor taught me when I was very, very young. He said, Arel, no matter what you do, just remember sales is everything in that you do. And so once I learned to truly embrace sales, that's how I was able to build my first $1 million company in my 20s, because instead of saying it's something that's yucky, I learned how to do it in a really authentic way, in a really compassionate way, and most important, a genuine way. And what I'm really excited for you to learn is how Jeffrey actually sees the future of it, about how to sell more, how to use connection, and the power of request versus demands. And there's a lot of cool things we're going to jump into today. I don't want to give away too much because we're going to cover on the call, but trust me, if you want to learn how to influence people, and I really think that's what sales is. I've always said I've never really sold anything before. I've influenced people to make a buying decision. So I think if you really want to build your influence skills, if you really want to become a person that is more likable in an authentic and genuine way, what we're going to cover today about the future of how to do that and how you can start applying it today will absolutely change the game for you. So I'm so excited to jump into this. You have no idea. With that said, let's give some love, y'all. He can hear you and he can feel you. So if you're there, give him a round of applause, or give him a raise the roof or a fist bump or whatever it is. But help me welcome Jeff Slater. What's up, Jeffrey? You still there?
Hey, yeah, what's up? How are you? What a good, awesome intro. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for having me here. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I would agree with every one of the statements you shared about sales and being influential, and how where we're heading as human beings is really about connection. And so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And I'm a big fan of jumping right into it. And I know that you have a theory on new corporations, or born and it breeds new new types of salespeople. So when you say like the future is here and there's a new type of sales that's happening, what are you referring to? What does that all mean?
Well, what I'm noticing, here's a good example. Tony Hsieh, who started Zappos, Zappos Shoes, the largest shoe company online, which was bought by Amazon. They are really innovators, and I think what's happening is, as people used to check their humanness at the door when they go to work. So they would leave out their connection to themselves. They'd leave out their connection to their customers, and they'd go to work as if it's like something that's separate from being human. And what I'm noticing now is people, when they go into the office, the people that are selling, the CEOs, they are keeping their connection to themselves, their connection to an empathy of their fellow human beings, and also the people and their customers. And that seems to be increasing their sales. And Tony Hsieh is doing some pretty incredible stuff right now. And if you check out his new management style and what he's doing, this is a future thing. People can go look that up. But it's just changing. And what I mean by that is the future of sales is really a sense of empathy and connection, and no longer about technique.
And it's really fascinating that you share that, because I had the opportunity actually to do some work with Tony Hsieh for his Downtown Vegas project. And the way people talk about this guy is like incredible. And the way that people feel about the company was something special when I was involved in a project. And if you don't know about Zappos, or if you're not familiar with it, it really is a company that changed the game with their customer service approach. And honestly, that they would do crazy things for customers that was completely out of order, but it built kind of a legacy about them. So
actually, I mean, you probably saw this. They're allowed to talk to their customers on their customer service for as long as they want to, where other companies, they have these timers. And so that means the customer calls in, wants to buy shoes, and the customer starts talking, and they're not regulated by how long they can talk to the customer. They have phone calls that are hours and hours long, but they're building the relationships with these customers, which make them customers for life. So they're just different. I'm glad you've experienced that with them, like something like that.
Yeah. And let's jump into how we can start building some of those differences. And you talk about, people before focus all on strategy, or, and they left their humanness behind. If we want to, wherever we are, start building that connection and say, okay, well, how do I start having this empathy and building this connection? What are some steps that we can take to start implementing that right now?
Yeah, I've noticed that. So most people, when they're usually allergic to sales, and because it's not that people actually don't like sales, they just don't like being sold to poorly. And so it's people often find that they have these bad experiences with sales, but it's because somebody sold to them poorly. So then they're left with a bad taste in their mouth. So then they go out and they go, I don't want to ever sell. Unfortunately, a business is made up, I guess, of just, if I break it down to three simple things, is generating leads, selling, and fulfilling on your customers' needs. So leads, sales, and fulfillment. But oftentimes people will spend all their time getting very, very good at delivering a product and a service, but they won't actually focus on generating leads and selling. So unfortunately, what happens is their business suffers because of that, because generating leads and selling is a big component of doing business. And if you're an entrepreneur and you want to do business, and if you're not going to learn sales skills, I've just seen so many people never learning sales skills, and their business suffers, and most of the time they actually fail because they didn't get over that allergy, or that bad taste in the mouth of sales, when really it's not sales they're allergic to. It's actually being sold to poorly.
And that's a very important distinction, because if you think about it, if you have to make a big purchase or an important purchase, something you wanted to buy, having someone share pricing options with you, or new features that actually can truly benefit you, you're like, oh man, I'm glad you did that. But if you jam it down someone's throat, no one likes it. So it's very important. And I want to go into these three subjects, because you said lead, sales, and fulfillment. So tell me about the average person who is looking to create leads. What are some ways to do that in the new approach?
Okay, so in my audiences, in my trainings, often I'll talk about the difference between sales and marketing, and this can often be confusing for people. So what I found is, let's take Apple for example. Apple is the probably one of the best marketing companies in the world. When we go to an Apple store, we walk in and we don't even need to be really sold to anything. The marketing is so good, we walk in looking to buy something. So if you have extraordinary marketing, your sales people can be more order takers. So I don't want to leave out that marketing is key. So if you have strong marketing and good sales and customer service, I mean, that's the formula for a recipe for success, right? But Apple is so good. You walk in, you want to buy something, you have order takers, and all the job of the person that sits there with you is to make sure they don't screw it up or finds the right match for you. But the sale's already done. So we can actually, as generating leads, that falls really under the category of really strong marketing. And so some people are really good at sales, but their marketing's horrible. So then they work really hard generating lots of sales conversation, and they have to go sell the sales conversations where really, ideally, they'd want a really good marketing department that then feeds the leads to the sales team, and the sales team order takes, or basically serves the customer, where there's no pressure and it's just about finding the right match. And I would say Apple's a prime example of a company that does that extremely well. So how do we apply this to the average person that doesn't have billions of dollars at their disposal? Well, the first step is we need to bootstrap our positioning of our companies, the packaging and the positioning. So if you're, let's say, a coach, consultant, or a speaker, or author, or a service provider, oftentimes, if you don't have a website that describes your services, your credibility, your who you work with, who you don't work with, some sort of giveaway, maybe some videos. If you don't have a website that does that, when you meet somebody, they connect with you, they might find you curious and want to work with you. But then what happens is the first thing they do is they look you up. And now, if they look you up and you're not positioned right and you're not packaged right, where the customer understands, you have to work harder to sell. So when you're just getting started, it's important that we're packaged and we're positioned correctly on the websites. We have a website, we exist. They know who we work with, who we don't. Because then when we meet people, then when it's time to sell, it's not an uphill battle to sell. It actually just makes it easier. But just because you have a website and you're positioned right doesn't necessarily mean it's going to generate a whole bunch of leads. But when you do meet people, it'll make it a lot easier. So that's a kind of the rant version of that, but I hope it makes sense.
It does. And I think that you touch upon a very important idea about the proper packaging. And one of the challenges that I often hear about people who approach me and say, hey, Aurel, you do speaking all over the place. I'd love to do speaking too. And when I ask them, great, what do you want to speak about? I usually get answers like, well, anything, or, whatever they want me to talk about. And I say, well, what do you want to focus on? And people have a fear of pigeonholing themselves. They say, well, I don't want to tell people I'm just the person who does X, whatever it is. Let's say it's sales, right? Yeah, okay, sales, right? Like they don't want to say I'm the salesperson because I can also do really good leadership development, or I'm a really great motivational speaker. And I'm afraid to say I just do sales because people will pigeonhole me. When people are starting to look at packaging themselves in a way to hopefully get people to get, instead of becoming a sale, but become an order taker, what are some suggestions on how to do that in the most effective way?
Yeah, thanks. Definitely. So oftentimes people, one of the mistakes I used to make was I wanted to tell people what they needed, okay, not what they wanted. So you got to sell people what they want and then give them what they need. So for example, let's say losing weight. Okay, someone wants to lose weight. But what they need is to totally change their entire eating habits. They need to eat organic food. They need to be out in the sun more. They need to take walks. They need to change their surroundings. That's what they need. But what they want is they want to lose weight. And so if you write your copy or the writing and the descriptions from a place of this is what you need, most likely they're not going to listen. So an exercise that I do in my trainings at times is I will have the people that are sitting there that sell the products find the language patterns that the people use to describe what they want. So let's say you're listening to this. This is a call about sales. What you most likely want is something like this. I might use slightly different language, but I'll do my best. You want to make more money. You want to not be salesy, but still sell. You want to shorten your sales cycles because the sales cycles might be too long. So you want to shorten them up so you spend less time and you make more money. You probably want on this, to learn about decision makers, working with decision makers, because you often might be wasting your time with non-decision makers. So you want to spend more time with decision makers, and you want to make more money, specifically in less time, probably wanting to raise your rates for your products or your services, something of that. That's what people want when they learn about sales. What they often need, and the needs is they need to sell themselves on themselves first. And if you can't, who are we to sell or to go sell something if we haven't sold ourselves on us? So what I do, like in my sales trainings often, is I will make sure that people sell themselves on them first. And when they're sold on them as a person, what they bring to the world, they're seen as something that they have to offer. It makes sales a whole lot easier because they stand congruent in their value for the marketplace and what they deliver. But if I go to a marketplace and say, okay, I'm going to teach sales, but sell yourself on you first, that's not what they want. They want, show me how to make more money with less time. So the specific action is, what do your customers say that they want? Describe it in the language that they use, not the language that you use. And that's what you use in your marketing, your positioning, and even in your sales conversation.
Yeah, it's a very important idea because I've gone to a lot of, transformational events, and one of my favorites was Tony Robbins, and I know you're a big fan of Tony, and Tony as well. But you go there for this, like, I want to learn how to make more money, and but like what you really remember the most out of it were these personal breakthroughs. Like, wow, this is what's holding me back, or wow, that's what's stopping me. And when you have a confidence about yourself, a lot of the times the specific strategy aren't as important because you are just so truly passionate, not the fake manic kind of passionate, but like the real passionate. So that's a huge problem though. A lot of people don't, they want to sell themselves. And if you ask them, do you believe in yourself? They'll say, yes, I do, Jeffrey. But they don't. So what are some things that are ways to overcome that initial resistance to truly selling ourselves on ourselves?
So one thing that I've done that works pretty well is we'll have the people listening write down everything you think sales is that is not useful. So let's say I have an audience of 500 people. I might say, well, what is sales to you? Those of you that don't like sales, and they say it's manipulative, it's scammy, it's slimy, it's hard work, it's shallow, it's pushy, all the things that people think sales is at a deep level. And usually I'll tell the people, I said, once they write this whole list, and it's usually a whole big nasty list, right? And I say, well, if this is what sales is, I can completely understand why you're not selling at the level you want to. Because if this was sales to me, I wouldn't sell either. Because us as human beings, we want connection. We're naturally built as human beings to connect, to have empathy, to understand our symbiotic relationship with other people, to do kind things. That's true human nature. Now, sometimes this mainstream culture has us believe we're otherwise, but that's the true experience of being human. So if we as human beings, we see sales as manipulative, wrong, all those things, then of course we're not going to sell. Of course. So then these people go out in their lives and they don't sell, and they stay away from it. They're allergic to it, and it hurts them. What I say is, well, who sold you on the fact that it's that? And I have to, then they sometimes realize, they go, you know what? They are so good in sales that they sold themselves that that's what sales is wrong, manipulative, pushy. And it can be when you're sold too poorly. And I wouldn't even call that sales. I call it just being pushy. But they sold themselves on that. When they realize they've sold themselves on that, I say, well, let's invent something new. Let's invent a new relationship to what selling is. And so what we'll do is we'll take notes on what could selling be? Who are some prime examples of people that sell well? And I would say Gandhi, he's selling a vision. He was selling a vision. Martin Luther King, incredible man, selling a vision of where we need to go. So he was in sales. Now he was a visionary. So sales could be visionary. Sales could be leadership. Sales could be finding a match. Sales could be giving a gift. Many different ways to relate to sales. So then I said, well, if you related to yourself, to sales as giving a gift, finding matches, how many of you would actually sell more? And then they said, yeah, they would sell more. So then I said, well, that's the first step, is changing a relationship. Number two is oftentimes people confuse. They'll go to coffee meetings all the time. So they'll just do these kind of casual coffee meetings. They go and they meet someone at a networking event, and then they go, let's just do coffee. But really their intention is to actually sell their service. But then they go to these coffee meetings and they waste their time hoping maybe the right moment of the conversation, they will say, someone will just stand up and go, you know what, I was just thinking, I'd like to buy your service. But that never happens. So they waste so much time chatting, looking for the opening to sell something, when instead, if they just would have been direct and been upfront and say, let's say they were in a networking meeting and they had a conversation, and I said, so would you be curious about learning how to make more money this year and shortening your sales cycles for your sales team? And the guy said, yeah, I'd be curious about that. Great. I know it's a little early, but is this something you'd like? Are you the person that makes decisions in this? And they say, yep. Great. You know what we should do? Why don't we set up a lunch meeting? We'll have an hour conversation about where you are with your team, where you want to go. And let's have a discussion about the challenges you're having. And at the end of the conversation, we'll find out if we're a match in working together. And possibly I could come in and work with your sales team. And the person goes, yeah, let's have a meeting. That meeting has a set intention. It's clear about the objectives. We're going into the meeting discussing their challenges. I'm not hoping that they're going to have an opening to discuss things. So my point is this, is when you're chatting, there's two domains. Know when you're selling and know when you're chatting. And oftentimes people confuse chatting with sales. But if no one has a sales process, they don't know when they don't know when they're selling, and they don't know when they're chatting. And when they do sell something, oftentimes it was a fluke. They didn't know what they did that caused the sale. But if you do understand how to sell and you do have a process that you follow, then selling becomes something that is, you understand what you did that worked, and you can look at it and review, and what you didn't work. So the two takeaways are: chat, know when you're selling, know when you're chatting. Second thing is, don't just have meetings to have meetings with casual intent. If we don't value our time as entrepreneurs, how do we expect other people to value our time if we don't value our own? So when we go into meetings, there's a clear intent. The person is clear about the intent, and so are you. And that meeting is far more effective.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress to you enough how much people will invite me out to, hey, I just want to connect with you, and and if I the times I do say yes, it turns into a pitch, and you actually feel kind of dirty, like, oh, I thought you were genuinely interested in connecting with me, and this was just a dirty way of I wish you would have been honest with me. So I think the tricking people doesn't work. It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't. That's like the kind of old school model, which is you just get the time with them, and then hopefully it'll just work out, instead of just being clear and transparent and clear and telling people where you're at.
Now, I know why some of our listeners may be scared to do this, Jeffrey, and I want you to address this, because they're afraid of that rejection. I say, hey, Jeffrey, I want to help you, accomplish X goal. Is this something you'd be interested in? And then they go, you feel like you're bothering them. They feel that awkward silence. I don't know. And then they dread that. How do you deal with that feeling?
Yeah, so one thing, to anyone that makes a difference in the planet or has something to share, they are going to be an inconvenience to somebody, or a disruption would be another experience. I have learned Richard Branson has had more people say no to him than yes and that's just normal. You're going to go collect no's. And the more no's you get, the more yeses you're going to get over time. But some people spend their whole life never making sure they never get a no, but their business stagnates, they struggle financially, and their gift doesn't reach the world. So what I've actually just come to the terms with, and other people that sell well too, is that we will be a disruption in their life. What is that? In a good way. When somebody says, would you be curious about learning more sales or becoming more effective with your time and making more money, that person now has to look at, you are a disruption, because that person has to look at their current relationship to how much money they make compared to their goals, how their level of ease in conversations. They have to deal with it. And that is not always fun. But at the same time, it's very real. It moves things forward. So the first thing I had to come to terms with was, I will be a disruption in people's life, and that's just the way it's going to go. People are going to reject what I have to offer at times, and some people are going to take it. But if I spend my life trying to please everybody, then I'm not going to have my own life. I came here, somebody asked me, they said, Jeff, if you were alone left on an island, what book would you take with you? That's your favorite book. I said, I'd bring a blank book, because I'm the author of my life. I write the chapters in my book. I say how it goes, and versus being a character in somebody else's novel. We as entrepreneurs, our job is to be the authors of our life. And we say how it goes. If we are going to say that rejection is going to stop us in our book, then we will write chapters about how rejection made us hide in our houses, never have the life we love, never offer our gifts to the planet. And that will be the chapter in the book. And it will not be a very pretty chapter. But if we as human beings decide that we are the authors of our life, and we went out and we dealt with the experience of the rejection, it grew us. It helped us become better human beings, better communicators, more influential, able to transmit a message that brings humanity together in some sort of way. When we write that chapter in our books, that's actually, we grow as human beings. So I guess it's just changing our relationship to rejection, because what I've noticed is that this world is some of this world is a little bit insane. There's wars going on, there's famine, there's destruction, there's all kinds of stuff happening. We as the people that are building businesses that make a difference in people's worlds, that want to positively impact people, we are the ones that are going sane in an insane world. And if we trust that we have something to offer to this planet that's different from the status quo, because we need something different. It's the entrepreneurs, the problem solvers that have a gift for this planet. We are the ones that are going to help change the world. And so let's bring it out. Let's go sane in an insane world, and let's disrupt this current system that is basically not working.
Man, there's so many reasons why I love that approach of change your relationship to rejection, because it really is impossible to not have rejection. Like you said, even Richard Branson gets rejected. Like, the most powerful people get it. Why does anyone think they'll be the exception? You're not going to be the exception. You're not going to be the one person who never gets rejected. So change your relationship with it. One of the things my mentor shared with me, which was very powerful, was he said, every time you do any type of sales relationship, your goal is to get 10 no's in a row. Get like 10 people, right? Get 10 no's. And chances are you won't, right? Like, odds are you'll, like, on the 7th try, someone will say yes and it'll mess you up and you got to go back to the system. But you got your yes. So that's really what you want. So you can make a game out of it. And I think it's a great way and very powerful to change your relationship with it.
If I could I give one tip around that? Because this is just, I saw the open. I was like, okay. If the people listening to this, if you just go out and you raise your price points, try raising your price points. Okay, maybe double them or take them 25% up. Raise your price points, something that makes you a little nervous, and go ask 10 people to buy your service at that new price point. And you can't, and most likely you're going to get a yes. So that means you raise your prices. I have people that say to me, they say, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I say, look, you haven't asked anybody. Go ask 10 or 20 people for what you offer. And if you get 20 no's, then you come back to me and we'll have a discussion. But oftentimes people will say it won't work before they ever try it.
Right. So, what I really hear you talking about is really transforming your sales approach. You're transforming how you look at yourself. You're transforming how you interact with people, the level of confidence you have in what you can do, the price point you can do. So how are some ways that we can actually make fewer calls and more sales? Okay.
The first thing is I might even go ahead of sales a little bit to the positioning of your services, to people's services. So for example, I had a client of mine who's a top kitchen. He makes kitchens for franchises all over Australia, and great guy. And what he found was that the way his positioning was. So he wasn't positioned on his website really for attracting franchise companies, even though those were his best customers. Those were the customers he liked to work with. But all his marketing was just kind of regular kitchens. And I said to him, who are your perfect customers? Who are the customers you love to work with? So define who the customers are that you love to work with. Oftentimes I'll go into a company and I will look at what customers make them the most amount of money that they enjoy working with in the least amount of time, that are the most satisfied. And out of like 200 customers, maybe 50 customers have a similar trend about those types of customers that they are. What are their traits? Where do they spend their time? What types of companies are there? What's their average deal size? And then we will go in and we'll look at our marketing and our positioning of a company, and we will rejig or retarget the marketing of the company to attract more of those customers as leads. Then now the sales conversations we're having are more targeted sales conversations. They're way less wasted time. And when we do close a deal, instead of it being like one of those deals where it could be a $10,000 pain in the butt deal versus a $100,000 deal, we're closing $100,000 deals in less time. All because we defined and took the moment out and defined who our customers were, their traits, their personality, positioned our marketing in a way that attracted more of those. When we got on the phone with them, we say, well, typically we work with franchise companies that are having this challenge of they need a good, reputable company to build out their kitchens in a way that makes sense at the most equitable price possible, that get them done on time at the rollout speed that's needed to keep up with the pace of the growing franchise. That's what we do, and that's what we specialize in. So they're clear about their customer. So for people listening, who are your perfect customers? Who are the ones that make you the most amount of money that you enjoy working with? Fire the customers that you hate working with, and don't build your marketing to attract those customers. Stop trying to work with everybody, and we need to start working with the specific people we're here to work with. Narrow your niche, and typically when we narrow our niche, the more money we'll actually make.
And that is so powerful yet so scary for so many people, because they go, well, fire customer, are you crazy? Like these, I got, Mr. Visa and Mrs. Amex still want to get paid every month, and this is the money I can. What do you say when someone says, hey man, I'm afraid of losing customers, I want to, I'd rather have that money right now than this big money that might come later? How does someone reconcile that?
Well, there's a balance. I mean, going and firing all your customers may not be the smartest idea. But the thing is this, is if we don't, I would say the first step is just for people running a business is to maybe slow down for a second and look at who your perfect customers are that you enjoy working with, define them. Okay, once you've done that, then you can start to be more discerning about the customers that cost you a lot of money and time. And remember, often people think sales is about going and pitching everybody. I actually see it as an interview process. It's about them having to share with me about what they want, what's important to them, and seeing if it's actually a match. More of an interview process versus a sales process. So what I find is there is going to be some fear. Totally normal. But when you get one of those customers that require 10 times more work, that are not fun to work with, you can just tell them, maybe we should go elsewhere. And maybe we're not a match in working together, and let them know that. What you're doing is you're telling the universe that you don't tolerate this type of treatment, you don't tolerate this type of experience in your business, and then what begins to happen is you will attract better customers that are more fun to work with.
Yeah, and it's very important. One of the things that I'll add to what Jeffrey just said, again, we're talking to Jeffrey Slater about the future of sales. One of the things I'll add to that is for those lower priced or more annoying base, one of the things that I have started doing, which has been very helpful for me, is building relationships with people who do similar work as I do, that I can refer those people to and say, hey, I may not be the best fit, but I have good news. Here's so-and-so who does this and does this exactly what you need. And then that person gives me a finder's fee for sending them that business. So literally, I get to get the business off of my plate that's going to be stressful and lower cost. I get to share it with other people, get a percentage of that. So it's not like I'm throwing the money away in my head. It makes me feel a little bit more okay with passing it on.
I think that's a great idea, because then you're still able to create some sort of exchange. You're able to create an exchange. Sorry, I have a construction project going on I'm changing it doesn't matter. The banging in the back is because we're changing a part of our house, anyways. We were sold on the idea of having a different type of experience in a house in a lovely way, but it's a long construction project. So the point is this, is that there's got to be a fair exchange. And so I would totally agree, when somebody is if they're not a match, have somebody you can pass them to that would be a match for them. Okay. And then you can make some money as a finder's fee and be transparent about it.
And that's important, making sure you have transparency, because no one likes to be tricked. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Sales is not about tricking people or confusing people or hoping people don't find out. It's just be transparent. And, now, Jeff, let's say that we sell ourselves on ourselves. We get a really good website and a good web presence where we talk about exactly who we help, and we have our, top 20%, the Pareto's law of the 80-20, and we're focusing on that top 20%. A lot of people might say, but Jeffrey, man, how do I get people to find me in the first place? Like, my website's awesome. It's beautiful. It's great. Nobody's coming to the site and nobody's ringing my phone. What am I doing wrong?
Okay, so now we're in more of a marketing conversation, which would be, how do you generate leads? So I'll give you a few ideas on this, but this whole topic, I'm sure there's so much stuff out there on this, but it's essentially discovering. You could do joint ventures. So you could use a sales conversation to have a conversation with somebody that has a very large email list. Okay. So for example, community, like we need to be involved in communities. I think you have a community, the Art of Likeability, your fan page, right?
Yeah, we have a new Facebook group, correct?
Yeah. Sorry, the Facebook group. So on that Facebook group, there's probably all kinds of entrepreneurs that are connected and that are up to similar games. And there's probably people on there that have great lists, things like that. So these are communities. The value today is our businesses today are about bringing communities together. So you've built an incredible entrepreneurial community and a place for them to gather and to share. In these communities, there could be joint venture partnerships. There could be opportunities for speaking, all kinds of stuff amongst the community. And one of the best ways to generate more leads, get traffic is through joint ventures, is through public speaking. So talking on podcasts, talking on stages. The other one would be just general marketing on radio, on television, on and then Facebook ads. But all this, you have to make sure your money is going to the right place. With the highest leverage point. And since I don't know those specific businesses all the time, it's hard to say which channel would be best. But really, I found that even if you don't speak all the time, public speaking, if you're not in the speaking industry, I find it's a very good way. So like a short example would be one of my clients builds the back-end infrastructure for websites for airlines. So most of the major carriers out there, when you buy a ticket, he built all the back end stuff. And he's a technology guy. And I said to him, so when's your next event? When's your next conference? And he goes, well, we get a booth. We usually go to the conference. I said, from now on, your team speaks at the conference. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't speak. I said, instead of you having just a booth at the conference, I want you to be a speaker at the conference and being the expert about where the industry is going. He went and he spoke at these conferences, these airline conferences, and he just talked for half an hour about where the industry is going, what he's noticing as a trend. He got so many leads from that, it changed his whole business. So whether we're public speakers or not, that skill set of being able to, instead of going to expos, we are the presenters at the expos, can change your business.
Absolutely. And it seems that what I'm like reading between the lines is a lot of this is about really learning how to connect with people. When you're speaking, you're connecting with people in an important way. When you're doing joint ventures, you're connecting with people who have influence on over people. When you're doing all these things you mentioned, there's a lot about connection. I know you talk about how to create a connected sales that repeat. Tell me more about that.
I've noticed that people often don't buy necessarily from what we're saying. They buy what we embody as human beings. So what we embody as an emotion, as a feeling, that's actually doing the sale more than the techniques, more than the words that we're saying. So what's important is I've found for myself is getting clear about the emotional experience of what my product or service offers. So if I know that when people work with me, they experience more freedom in their life, they experience more of a life by their design, more fun, more play in their life. My job is to make sure that I feel that while sharing and discussing my services or my products, because that's actually the resonance that creates it. So my point is, people don't buy necessarily what you say. They buy what we embody as an experience of ourselves, emotion. People often don't think that they like to sell using logic. And that's important to have some logic. But emotion, the experience of emotion, creates emotion and creates motion. Here's a cheesy line. Emotion creates motion. So in our sales, we have to actually feel what it is that we sell. My father was the first CEO and founder of first CEO and co-founder of a company called Odesk, which is now merged with Elance. It started on our kitchen table. And it was a very small company at the time, and now it's the biggest in the industry, and it's done very well. He no longer he raised the money, he got it started. He's no longer there. He's done to other projects. But I watched him and his conviction in what he sold. He wasn't selling. And for some of you that know the company, it's an outsourced company. He wasn't selling outsourced services as a business. That wasn't what he was selling. What he was actually selling, what is connection and freedom to work anywhere. The CEO, he is a part of this group called this CEO training group, and they brought in the vice president of Porsche, and he's the vice president of Porsche stands in front of the room to all these executives, and he says, "You think I sell cars? I don't sell cars." He goes, "We sell street legal race cars. We sell a membership to be a part of. So whatever it is that we sell, it is not necessarily the product or service that we're selling. It's the emotion and the experience of the result, the experience of what people get when they buy our services and product. And if we don't feel it, they never will."
I wish people could. I want to repeat this because it's so powerful that when you focus on features and benefits, you're just missing the boat. People want the behind the scenes of it. It's the same reason why people walk into the office and they carry around a Starbucks cup of coffee long after the coffee's been drunk, because they want to feel that like Starbucks like glow, that like, oh, he has Starbucks in his hand. That's amazing. There's like that feeling of holding the cup that people care a little bit more about. Like if you had Starbucks coffee in a plain white cup, it wouldn't mean as much to you because it's that branding, it's that feeling that you have, that almost status. And when you connect what you're doing to that status, to that real kind of almost amphibian brain part of you, you really start connecting into something deeper. How does someone figure out what they're really triggering, what they're really doing? Because a lot of people say, man, this is a great idea, but I can't figure it out. Like I sell, IT consulting. I sell, these things. How do I get to that sexy part of what I do?
Yeah, they need to talk to their customers. It sounds so simple, but most of them don't do it. Ask your customers, why did you buy from me? What did you want when you bought my services or products? What was the outcome that you wanted to experience? What was the challenges that you wanted to overcome? Talk to 10 of your best customers. You'll get so much information, but people are saying, I'm too busy to do that. Well, that's a sure way to have your business struggle. So I will share that to talk to the customers and discover that. The next thing is people often will not ask for the sale. This is a huge thing. They don't ask for the business. And this will slaughter a company. So just asking for the business, they'll increase their sales dramatically. Would you like to buy my service? Would you like to invest in this program? Would you like to become a part of this community? All those just questions. Ask questions.
Now, again, we're talking with Jeffrey Slater, who's given us the inside look into many things. The future of sales is one of them, but I really think it's the future of influence and the future of communication. And Jeffrey's given us a lot of great ideas. And I got a few more questions for you, Jeff. But, there's something that you are doing that I think is very, very, very unique. And when we talk about connecting with people, we talk about going into a deeper level of what people really want. I know that that's something that you do very, very, very well. And you actually do kind of an interesting thing in the Amazon with some CEOs and stuff to get them to get in. I think it's really interesting. So if it's okay with you, I kind of want you to share about how you get people connected on that deeper level with the work that they're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody. I started this. So I've been meditating since I've been 20 daily. And, I've of course missed a few here and there on travel, but daily meditation practice, I've for minimum half hour a day. And I've always been on this quest for what is my relationship to myself? What is my place in the universe? It can be confusing at times. And so that's been there for a long time. I've also spent my life reading books on, human potential, what's possible. I've done the whole, spend time in India and meditate in ashrams. And I found all that very interesting. I've never been one to drink alcohol or anything like that. My mom's mom was an alcoholic. I saw the impact of it. So I've never actually really drank anything in my life, drank alcohol in my life. So I'm not the one to be like into external substances at all, and pushed into anything like that. But one time, on this quest, I realized, I said, there's these executives, and I get to, behind closed doors, I get to talk with these guys and ladies, and they're going on these retreats, and they're not telling their shareholders or anything. They're just going on these retreats to the Amazon, or they're going to India, and they're getting on the fringes, and they're spending maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the jungles with ancient medicine men and women in the jungles, turning off their laptops to go into themselves. And I started getting curious about it, finding out more about it. And I said, well, I haven't done that. I've been doing meditation to discover, because I realize if I'm connected to me and myself, it just makes me enjoy my life far more. And also understand myself and my relationship to my fellow human beings better. And I started getting a little curious. And I started finding out, some of the people that were going, and these were people that are very successful, and they're just on a journey to discover themselves. And they seem like world bridgers to me. They are good in business, but then they also have this spiritual connection to Mother Earth, their surroundings, and they seem very balanced. And I asked, what are they doing? And so I went and did some research. There's all these, and the guy said, well, I did this thing called, it's an ayahuasca retreat, or San Pedro, which is another medicine that's been around for thousands of years. Western culture calls them, would call them drugs. And I would say that they are entheogens. And an entheogen is a spiritual tool used to go inward, done in a shamanic way. And these have been around longer than the pharmaceutical companies, for thousands and thousands of years. So I went and had that experience myself, and many times. And I thought that the experience was profound, life-changing, and the fastest way to get results into dropping into ourself and our own experience of being human. I started seeing results with not just some of the people I've brought to the Amazon, but the other CEOs and executives with their lives. I noticed they got more engaged in their life after the experience. Their teams got more engaged because the CEO was engaged, and they just seemed all around more balanced. And I couldn't seem to crack it with a daily meditation, and I still meditate, but I couldn't seem to crack it with daily meditation to the level I wanted to. So I went and took the plunge and experienced that. So specifically the project that I do, which I love, because the conversations are raw, authentic, life-changing, is I do this thing called The Grand Initiative, thegrandinitiative.com. And that's where I spend, I fund it myself. I spend time it's application only, and I spend time in the Amazon with top level CEOs, and it's amazing. And working with entheogens, plant medicine, and it's a game changer. And not many people know about it. If you go to the resource section, there's video after video after video about it. Now, how does this increase your sales? How does this increase your help in your life? Everyone's different. It's definitely not for everybody, for sure. But for the right people, it's a real game changer.
Yeah, and I know that people like Tim Ferriss have been talking about these things, and it's really unique. So I'm definitely going to check it out. Say the website one more time in case someone missed it.
Sure, thegrandinitiative.com, and if they go to the resource section, I've put science backing up everything I'm sharing on there. I've put over 40 videos of documentaries for people to go check it out themselves and see if it's something they want to do. I mean, there's places that they should go that are not that are safe, and then there's places that aren't safe. So you have to do all the research and feel if it's for you. And that's it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this with. I know that was something we talked about earlier, and I was like, man, that's really, I've literally never heard anything like that. So I'm glad you got to share that, and I'm gonna go check that out myself. We got a few minutes left on our call. There was a question I wanted to ask you before we start going to the wrap up here, but you talk about something about the difference between the power of requests versus demands. Could you share that with us before we finish up here?
Yeah, absolutely. Oftentimes, CEOs or owners of companies, we will not know the difference between a request and a demand, and not knowing this can cost us our level of productivity with our team and the people around us. Because if we make demands on people, so what is a demand? A demand is where if you're in the military, they're making demands. Do this, go here, go here. And in a certain context, that would be very appropriate, a demand. But people that are leaders often will make demands of their team around them. And a demand will sometimes, out of context, remove the dignity and the free will of the human being that they're doing it to. For example, there was a CEO of a client of mine who had an assistant, and he was always making demands. Can you get the coffee for me? No, please get me please get me a coffee. Make this report, please. Very good at delegating, yet he was making demands. I need this done by this time. What was happening was, over time, that particular admin was starting to feel used. Even though she was getting paid, she was starting to feel used, not treated well, because he was not honoring her experience of free will. He was making demands versus requests. He then changed his language to make requests and energy around it. Would you mind getting me some coffee? That, where she has the ability to say no or yes. There's just a fine line between the two. Or this report, would we be able to get this done in the next 2 weeks? Is that possible? And then she can say yes or no. So the difference between when somebody makes a request, the person can freely say yes or no to the request. A demand, they have to say yes, and the dignity of the human being is sometimes taken out. And when that happens, productivity goes down and motivation goes down. So when we sell, we're going to make requests because that person needs the room to say no. If you make demands on them is when it's pushy.
You know, what happens if someone has a fear of, well, I don't want them to say no. Like, I need this in 2 weeks. And if they say no, then I'm SOL. Like, how do I deal with that?
I think that the person has to deal with their attachment to that particular outcome. And then if they really need it, they would say, if it's not going to work, is there anything I can do to support you in making this happen? Because I really need it to happen. But if that person, oftentimes if someone's afraid to say no, they'll say yes, and then they'll just miss the deliverable time. I'd rather hear the truth that that's not going to get done, and then say, well, how can I support you in having that happen? Or maybe hand it to somebody else.
Wow. Jeff, man, this is, I can't thank you enough, man. We've got so much great information about the confidence that we have to build, how to really do the inside out, if you will, selling approach, how to package yourself, how to get people to repeat working with you, how to get over rejection, how to get leads, how to get sales, how to get fulfillment, how to build relationships with people, how to market yourself in a powerful way, how to really get yourself in front of the top 20%, and how to find out that information, how to sell benefits instead of features, and how to get to that really sexy part of what you're doing. I mean, literally, this is a call that I would highly recommend folks to listen to twice. Most people probably listening to this while they're driving or doing some type of a chore of some sort. But I would definitely recommend looking at the show notes that we have for this, that have the notes of it, taking notes yourself, because there are some amazing gems that I think when you start applying to your life, you're going to see some massive change. And don't say, oh yeah, I could see how that would work, but never implement it. Try some of these things. Try increasing your price. Try calling some of your customers and ask, well, why did you buy from me in the first place? Actually, the biggest thing between people who can build successful lives and build successful businesses and build this likability within themselves and with others is that they're willing to apply what they hear. Saying, oh yeah, that makes sense, but never doing it is not the same as saying, I'm going to implement this and let's see what it is. Choose one. Choose a simple idea. Choose one thing and apply that and see where your results are. What won't change your life is spending an hour with us and then thinking that actually is where the self-improvement, that's actually where the benefit comes from. The benefit comes from the application of this knowledge that Jeffrey Slater just shared with us. And if you want to get more information, I know that Jeff does some cool events all over the place, Australia and other places. You have a book coming out. If people want to take some type of action and that action wants to be learning a little bit more about what you're doing, Jeffrey, where would you recommend people go?
Yeah, they can go to my website, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, Slater, SLAYTER.com. And on my website, I've documented over 1,000 documentaries categorized in different categories for people to get, other than I would advise people to turn the news off, the mainstream news. That's not going to do anything useful for many human beings. So to get other information and source that, about what's happening in the world and who we are and our health and sales and business and, interviews with Elon Musk, all kinds of great stuff. So go there. The next thing is on that, there's a free resource section as well where I have a membership and it's free. There's 7 videos about positioning, packaging, and some sales stuff and lifestyle. 7 videos for free there. They can go there as well. And then I have a book called Imagine as well, and they can find that on my website. So on my website, everything is there. The other one is thegrandinitiative.com, and that's more studying that stuff in the Amazon, which is definitely not for everybody. But if they're curious about it, they can go there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey, for spending some time with us. Any last words or anything you want to share with our awesome Art of Likeability listeners before you head out?
Yeah, just the fact that they're listening to this type of community and being a part of this community, like on the Facebook page that you guys, the group that you guys have, and staying involved in these communities. It's the community and the group that will support us in growing. So let's stick together and bring great things out to the world. So thank you for the time, and thanks for building a platform so that we can change lives all over the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So listen, everybody, you know what I'm going to tell you. If you don't want to change your life, if you don't want more success and more happiness, if you don't want any of those things, you just wasted an entire hour of your life. But I think that is something that you want because you spent some time to listen to us. So I want to shout out all of our listeners. We have people listening to us from over 138 countries, just incredible people. Want to shout out some awesome people. Angelica Chrysler out in Florida. Thank you so much for listening. She's a great listener and a great friend of mine too. So she is awesome. She sends questions, and you can see some of the questions that people post inside of the Art of Likeability Facebook group. So make sure to go to Facebook, just type in the word Art of Likeability. The Facebook group will show up. Join it, and you can meet cool people like her and the dozens and other people that will change your life, hopefully for the better. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Don't miss out on any of our episodes. We come out with a fresh, hot, toasted, warm episode every single week. So make sure it hits your iTunes or your Stitcher radio, wherever you're listening to us, as soon as it comes out. Go leave a review if you've not done so yet. The 5-star reviews actually make us feel great. We're going to do a promotion too. I'm going to let you know about the promotion next week. So if you've not left a comment yet on Facebook, a positive comment, hopefully it's positive, you better do so, because we're going to do a promotion. We're going to give away a special prize. We're going to randomly choose one of our listeners on the iTunes comments, choose them, and give them a really cool prize. I'm going to tell you about that in our next episode, so make sure to pay attention for it. But we got some cool things developing, so make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're rating us. And listen, the greatest thing you can do, the greatest compliment you could ever give me, if this information has helped you in any way, is share it with a friend. One of the greatest compliments I get from people is when they say, hey, Arel, I'm sharing your podcast with everyone in our office, or everyone in our sales team, or everyone from my company. It's just something I want everyone to do. Get around, get a campfire, get some s'mores going, and listen to this stuff and really build a community around this information, because it's going to help you. And think about it. If everyone you worked with and everyone you interacted with had these amazing skills, how much better would your world be? Not the world, but your world, the influence that you have, the happiness you have, because people get things at a much deeper, a much more visceral level. So please make sure to do that. And as always, sending you a big old high five, because you are awesome.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, The Art of Likeability, and reach out with any questions you have. Until next time, remember, my friend, you are awesome.